Good morning. I'm debating the glasses right now. They're kind of reflective, but it's fine. It's okay. It's another episode and Monday morning, so I'm not prepared to fully talk for 30 minutes, so bear with me. But before we get into this episode, which is a bunch of small topics, so once in a while I'll do an episode where I put together a bunch of random topics, and it just allows me to talk about a bunch of random stuff that came up in my mind that maybe other people have been thinking about or having opinions about. I don't have to commit to adding a bunch of like fluff and crap to one topic that really could just be talked about in a few minutes. So before we get into that, high-low buffalo. Also, I have like a backlog of high lows and buffaloes, so this is like a week delayed. This is like Thanksgiving week high-low buffalo. For my high, I had such a cute, wholesome Thanksgiving. I stayed in the city, so I didn't spend it with my family. Actually, this is my second year of spending Thanksgiving with friends, and it was really fun. I went to the Macy's Day Parade with the people who are left over in the city, and it's really nice that the parade is literally like a 15-minute walk from my apartment, and so it was just super easy to get to. We just went straight through Central Park and cut around some people, and we managed to find a really good place, even though we showed up an hour and a half late. And we also got takeout, and we painted mugs, and it was just very cute. And for my low, so honestly, this is so hypocritical because I obviously left my family to fend for themselves for Thanksgiving, but I am going home for Christmas. I will never miss a Christmas with my family. I'm so excited to go home, and I know that it's going to be really fun, and I was really excited this time because my dad actually lives in Cambodia, and he has missed Christmas with my family for, I think, 4 years now. I found out that this year he was actually going to stay in the States for Christmas, and I got so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, like I was telling my dad, like, this is going to be the first Christmas in a long time that you actually get to spend with us, and it's going to be so fun. And this man, he books a trip to China for 2 freaking months. Well, actually, not even 2 months, like almost 3 months. Anyways, but then on top of that, my grandma is also flying out. She already flew out, actually. She's now in Cambodia, and she's going to be there till the end of January. All these people leaving me. What the heck? That is so mean. And for my buffalo, so normally I call my dad. This time my dad just randomly called me, and whenever he randomly calls me, it's like something's going on. There's like something sus, or there's like something he wants to yell at me about. And this time he calls me and he's like, hey Annie, like, guess what I dreamt about? So I dreamt about you. You're in my dream last night. And I was like, oh, I was like, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? He was painting the whole story for me. So apparently I was like 18 at the time, and I was adopted by this family, and he was driving out in California to go see me. And he says he shows up at this house, and the parents come out, and they're like more heavy set, chubby, and I follow after the parents, and I had like a short like bob. She was like saying I look like a young lady, and I was so grown, and like he hadn't seen me before. He immediately like drops to his knees and starts crying, and he thinks about how he regrets not raising me properly and not, caring about me. And he was like, how could I not raise her? How could I not care for her and love her? Like, how did this happen? And he was just crying, and he said that I ran over to him and I started crying, and we were hugging and crying, and that is just so sad. My God, my dad is like, he's such a interesting human, an interesting man. He is definitely somebody, if you don't know him well, he comes off as very like tough, stubborn, like very hard on the outside, but he has the biggest heart. Like, he is such a softie on the inside, which is so sweet. But that's my high-low buffalo. Okay, moving on to the random small topics. Really random. Some of these are really, really serious, and some of them are going to be way lighter, so just bear with me. It's going to be a little bit crazy. A little bit of a roller coaster for this. First off, I stopped going to therapy, guys. This happened actually a long, long time ago, but I've realized I never really talked about it, which is so weird for me because I've talked about therapy on this podcast like maybe 20 times. And I talk about how it's a good idea. I went to therapy for a really long time in college consistently because I had particular things to deal with. Outside of college, I haven't really had anything in particular, which doesn't mean you don't need therapy. That's the thing, because you technically can have therapy if you don't have any like disorder. Actually, it's pretty good because it just keeps you level-headed. It gives you someone that you can talk to that should be neutral. But in my situation, I decided to cut it off. Personally, I would like to say that I am somebody who's more in tuned internally, and I have a very fix it if it's broken kind of mindset, where if there's something going on internally, externally, that I'm not really happy with, I will fix it. It got to the point where when I was going to therapy and I was speaking to my therapist, I would like tell her what was going on and I would tell her how I was going to fix it. So she had nothing else to say to me except like, great, I'm glad you're addressing it. She didn't have anything else to add except validations. And I was not about to pay $150 for 45 minutes, guys, 45-minute session just to be validated. I really don't need that. You know, I really don't know. I've been like so on and off about therapy because sometimes it really does help. I don't want to make a blanket statement and be like, for everybody, it's going to work. And I used to say that. So I'm going to say that I was wrong. My past self is wrong. Next thing is hustling as a coping mechanism. So I actually can do a full episode about this. I actually can probably talk about this for like 5 hours. But the thing is, I don't want to do it just yet because I want to do it justice. And so instead I want to touch on it for right now because it's like developing in my head. My like podcast ideas take a while. So this is me kind of just touching on it before I build out a full episode on this topic. I've been thinking more and more about this and also reading a really, really good book about this. I highly recommend it. I'm not done with it yet, but so far what I've read is really good. 4,000 Weeks by Oliver something. And I would go get it, but I would literally have to step away from the camera and I would mess up the audio. But 4,000 Weeks, I'll put it on the screen. And 4,000 weeks basically represents how many weeks we have to live if we die at 80. It's basically an anti-time management book. I'm a huge like self-help book reader. And I read plenty. And I've gotten to the point where I'm tired of them because they say the same things and aren't very helpful. But this one, guys, so good. Every page, there's something that resonates with me. And so I have to read it really slowly. It's like I'm almost triggered by what they're saying in the book, so much so that I have to read like 3 pages at a time and then stop, take a break, and then read another 3 pages. Book brought up a few things. Humans in general are digging a hole for themselves, and we're gonna dig a hole so deep that we can't get out of it. With like advancements in technology going forward, being better, a lot of that is making things more efficient, making things more convenient, faster, and like maximizing time and all your energy, because we know that time and energy is extremely limited, sacred, and you cannot create it. So once you use it up, it's gone, and no one in this world has been able to figure out how to give us more energy and time. I was thinking about how it doesn't make sense to keep being more and more efficient. Like, what's the point anymore? There's gonna be a point where we should stop a finish line to be like, okay, that's good, like that's efficient enough. The more and more that you make it efficient, the more problems that are showing up that we've never had before. We lose the charm of what inefficiency brings to things. For example, the fact that you can deliver groceries now, and I'm going to be such a hypocrite because I've delivered groceries before. For my own sake, I will say that I'm delivering rare Asian groceries that you can only get at Asian supermarkets that are hard for me to get to. For my own sake, I'm just gonna say that. So it's not the same as me Instacarting like a banana, okay? And no hate to anyone who does that, but seriously, the fact that you can order groceries is great. It makes you efficient. You save yourself, I don't know, an hour a week. But at the same time, there's like a whole charm, and there's something just so like special and fun about grocery shopping. Maybe it's because I'm an old lady at heart, but like just going to Trader Joe's and getting overwhelmed by the aisles and picking the best selection of fruits that you want out of the pile of fruits that you could get, seeing like what's new in the store, and that just whole experience is like very special. In the book specifically, the fact that you can make instant coffee now, you literally just pour it into your drink and then just add milk and bam, you have a pretty decent cup of coffee. But this person who uses instant coffee says that he prefers to go through the process of making coffee. He prefers to grind the beans, to put it through the machine, that whole process, which takes maybe 15 minutes longer than instant coffee does. He prefers that, but he doesn't do it because there's instant coffee. In my head, that makes literally no sense. Why would you do the thing that you wouldn't prefer? You know? I don't know what it is. It's just like you lose a lot of that like special moments, like the little things in life, because you're trying to maximize in-betweens. And when you lose those little moments, you just don't appreciate things as much anymore. And all you have is work the entire time. You're turning yourself into a literal machine. Machines are just always constantly working. They don't need time to take a break. They don't care about the little things and the imperfections. We're not the same thing. I feel like by making everything so efficient and just like hustling, you're kind of avoiding those moments. You're running away from something. I'm saying this from experience. I'm not just saying this to like shit on somebody who's like hustling. I'm saying this because I literally was the biggest hustler. I was doing 1,000,001 things in 24 hours. Somehow I like managed to squish 1,000,000 things. I said yes to everything. I signed up for literally everything. I had 3 hours of sleep consistently every night. I maximized my efficiency, guys. Like I would sleep at like 12 and then I'd wake up at 4 every day. I was studying morning to night. I went to eat, talking about it. I'm not even just exaggerating. I'm being legit serious. I would eat at the dining halls for 10 minutes. I would never eat with somebody because I felt like they would slow me down. Whenever I would go out to like club meetings, hang out with friends, and we like scheduled like 6 to 7, let's say, I would make sure I stuck to the 7 o'clock cutoff time and go schedule something else to do right after. And I would walk insanely fast to my classes and in between things. And I would study. I had flashcards on my phone to study, and I just never took a break. I realized that the thing that I was running away from was that I was afraid of failing, 1, and I was afraid of just being like everyone else, 2, and 3, that I felt like I was behind and not doing enough. If I were too slow, if I weren't efficient enough, then I always had a reason for why I failed. But if I maximized everything, then I could confidently say that I tried my very best, and that's all I could do. That's not literally what all life is about. It's not just about like being successful and achieving more things or achieving, period. There's like so many things that we coexist with in nature that could really care less about achieving things faster. Nature within itself is pretty inefficient if you just think about any random processes. Some of those things are like the most beautiful and special things, and they're not even achieving 1,000,000 things. They're just doing literally one thing. And it's just crazy that how much I've changed from that mindset to now, to where like I will purposefully be inefficient. Like this literally happened yesterday, guys. I was at one of the stations. I saw on the maps that it would take me 20 minutes to get back home, but then it was also an hour walk. It was such a nice day. All I want to do right now is like, I literally want to take a walk and I just want to enjoy this. So it was, I think, like 9 o'clock at night, and I just walked an hour back home. I like blasted music in my ears, and I was basically a main character. Not to be cheesy, cringy, and it was so nice. Next thing, around 25, I don't know if you guys knew this, I just found this out because someone told me. Around 25, our brain stops developing. What the hell? After I found that out, I literally like had a mini panic attack. I was like, what do you mean? I feel now that I need to, this is so funny because it's coming right after the topic I just talked about, but I feel like I need to learn as much as I possibly can and stuff as much into my brain right now and just keep growing exponentially until 25, because I'm nervous that, is that even true? Like if your brain stops developing, this is what I want to know. Even if your brain stops developing, can you still grow? Can't you learn more? I feel like you can. This really doesn't seem right. And I'm also speaking from experience because I know people in my life, family members, who've changed a lot in their 40s, 50s. I've literally watched them change. Okay, I need to like research more about this, but if it is true, the fact that your brain stops developing, I really need to cram some more shit up here. The next thing I wanted to talk about is giving/getting dating advice. This has been a big thing recently, and this is like both ways. I've been giving a lot of dating advice to a lot of people, and I've been getting a lot of dating advice from a lot of people. It's all fun and dandy. It's really fun to talk about. Actually, it's probably my favorite icebreaker topic to use. It works almost every time. Even if somebody's not dating and single, you can always be like, when you're meeting somebody new or like trying to catch up with someone, you can always rely on this topic. They'll talk about their situation, and if they're not dating, they'll tell you why they're not dating. Then they'll ask you, hopefully, about your situation, and it usually takes 5 minutes. But then also, there's on the other side where most of the time, people will have a lot to say, and it'll end up being like the entire conversation. Yeah, I've been giving a lot and getting a lot of dating advice. What I've just been noticing and what I've concluded is that it is really nice to get advice, hear things from a different person's perspective, but I've also been noticing it really does more harm than it helps. Not saying that my friends are bad at giving me dating advice. I'm talking fully like me giving dating advice. Like when I'm giving it, I'm like, I don't even want to give it, because no matter what, you don't ever know the full story. When it comes to dating, you're really immersed with one person and you get to experience a lot of things, like very intimate and very surface level things with this person that you don't normally experience with other people. And as much as somebody wants to say, yeah, I totally can understand and relate 100%, it's never 100%, because a lot happens behind closed doors. And a lot of the times when you're telling stories and trying to get advice from people about your relationships, you're telling a lot more of the time the bad things. We tend to just talk about the bad things more and focus on the negative things. So the advice that you get is skewed and biased. A person's perspective is going to be biased to what they've experienced for themselves. And it's a little bit rough taking on advice from other people when it is biased, because it's not particularly 100% relevant to your situation. You might be missing out / cutting something off / reading more into something than you should be, than you would normally be, because you got advice from somebody. Recently, I've been trying not to ask for advice and just like deal with it myself, because I know what I want at the end of the day. that's all that matters. Like, what is happening between me and that person. And the same thing for other people. Whatever is happening between my friends and their people, like, that's between them. I'm afraid to give advice because it's like, I don't really know what you see in that person. Like, I'm not attracted to them. I don't know what you guys have been doing on your dates. I don't know how you feel about a certain characteristic about them or certain things that they do. Like, for me, I'll find something completely like offensive and I'd be like, this is not okay. Like, I would leave immediately and I would say something immediately. But for them, it's like really nothing. And so I don't want to be like, oh my God, like, why would you deal with that? No, that's their preference. And it doesn't matter. Every relationship is going to be completely different. Because you're going to have to deal with that person and vice versa for as long as you keep the relationship going. Every moment, every conversation, and every text, whatever, is between both of you. No one else is going to get that granular and experience it at that level that you do. So it's really up to you what you want to deal with and what you want to keep in your life. Love everyone for giving the opinions and appreciating them. But sometimes it's really nice to be able to handle things yourself. So much talking every time. I'm overwhelmed every time I finish an episode, not gonna lie. Sometimes I have to take a break in between my episodes. Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening or watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're listening to this on my podcast, don't forget to rate the podcast and stay tuned for another episode either Sunday or Monday.
Cause you're sick and I suck being calm when I want what I want and I want it. Oh, you're more refreshing than a cold Sprite. Didn't even notice that my phone died.